When you think your team is ready to go, let me know.
Okay. Hold on, I just want to send this link to myself. Start. Okay. So I have my two computers here set up, and I'm trying to get everything in order. Okay, there we go. So I think we're ready to go on this end.
Okay, Sam, thanks so much. And on behalf of our team, we really appreciate meeting with you today and the opportunity to do that. Before we'll let everyone on our team kind of introduce themselves again. Before we do that, let's just remind everybody that this is a virtual bargaining session being conducted under the auspices of the Public Employees Relations Act, that the parties both have agreed to meet virtually under the circumstances, and that we are meeting today because the parties had previously agreed that negotiations would commence no later than February 19, 2021. So it's always a pleasure to be with y'all, and want to hope that everybody on the call is trying to stay as well as they can and safe under the circumstances. Again, and I have to say congratulations to Tampa for the great game that we got to see on national TV. It was a great combative game and amazing defense that the Tampa team has. And I have to say on behalf of my wife that she's in love with Mr. Brady of your team. But with that aside, let me just turn it over to, and I'll let Sherry go first maybe, and just each one of our team members just let everybody know that you're on the call and introduce yourself, please.
So hi, everyone. I'm Sherry Nessheim, and I represent USF's bargaining team from the HR department. So it's nice to see everybody again this year.
Hey, Sherry.
And I am Liz Gerbolini from the Office of General Counsel, also part of the bargaining team.
My name is Olga Joanno. I'm with USFL on the bargaining team.
And I'm Judith Ponticell. I'm the interim dean of the College of Education and on the bargaining team.
And I'm Jim Gary, vice provost, and I'm on the bargaining team.
Is that your whole team?
I think it's back to you, Sam.
Okay. So I'm Sam Badger. I'm the vice president / acting, I guess, of GAU right now. And I'm going to be acting as the lead bargainer. And I want to have our team, the rest of our team, introduce themselves. I guess starting with Liz first, maybe. So.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Eckel. I'm the grievance chair for GAU currently, and I'm on bargaining council here. And if you can hear a dog barking in the background, I apologize. I'll try not to let it be a problem. I'll mute myself. Thanks.
I think we have Kelly and Matthew Paz as well. So I don't know if either of you guys want to introduce yourselves, but Kelly, you remember bargaining with Kelly last year, I think a lot, John.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello. Yeah,
Hi, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Osterman. I'll turn on my camera for just a second. I'm Kelly Osterman. I'm one of the co-presidents of GAU. I'm not on the bargaining team this time, so I won't be contributing, but I figured you should, I'd say hi.
Yeah,
It's nice to see you, Kelly.
we've been missing Kelly a lot because she's been working very hard on her. And then we have another member of our team, Matt Paj, who's I think not going to say hi, but we may have more people join our team in the future as this goes on, but hopefully it won't go on too long. Hopefully we can get it wrapped up.
Well, it's really up to, you know, we sent you the ground rules last time and we never got them back. So I don't know if there was a problem with those or not, but, you know, now that we have, you know, kind of a practice of bargaining with you this way, I'm fine with maybe just having an agreement that, you know, if it's all possible, maybe we could, when we're going to have a proposal to give, that we try to provide it to the other side in advance, you know, so that they have a chance to look at it and study it. That would be something to look at as a possible ground rule. You may have others, but that's one I think that may help us. And then maybe where we agree that if we tentatively agree on something that we initial it. Now we can just send it back and forth through email and just initial it, just so we can keep a record of what we've covered. It can always go back, and if you choose to reverse your decision, do that. It's not encouraged, but if you feel like you've got to do that, but to try to at least initial tentative agreements. Those are the only two that I can think of.
Okay. The only other one I might add is that we at least try our best to schedule the next meeting, each meeting, so we can make sure that there's like we are hoping at least once a month so that we can get this done in a really timely fashion, and you know, grad students and the university both benefit. And I know a lot of that depends on stuff outside of all of our controls. Federal, state, government, board of trustees are all have their own decision-making processes, so we understand that may not be possible, but that's what we're striving for at least. Maybe at the end of each meeting we could suggest possible meeting times, and hopefully we can come to an agreement, and if not, maybe continue discussing it on email, but at least that should be the aspiration, I think, if that's okay with you guys. But other than that, I think the two rules that you just mentioned, I think are sufficient for us, alongside the one I just mentioned of trying to plan the next meeting at the end of each meeting. To jump right in, I think today is more like our team is going to try to treat this more as like a fact-finding sort of thing, to feel out where you guys are, and hopefully you guys can get a sense of where we are. So, you know, one thing that we're considering again is maybe a 1-year MOU is
when you think your
not
team,
something we're like committed to necessarily, but I do think it would be really valuable to have you know, just a 1-year MOU sort of a situation to just lock in the benefits that we have now, and maybe when the budget situation has changed, when people are not so stressed out with COVID, when we can actually meet in person to bargain, maybe we can actually look into having another proper 3-year contract, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, I think one thing that we really want to know, and I don't know if you guys can answer this today, but first off, we want to know, when do you guys think you might have budget authority?
well, I wish we had a crystal ball on that, and that is a good question. It really, as you know, depends largely just on the legislature and what happens. We don't have encouraging, news, and we still expect that there may be further reductions, in the budget. But we just have to wait, and it's probably going to be later, much later, in the year before we know anything. As soon as we do know anything, we'd certainly reach out to you, Sam, and let you know that. But I think right now, and Jim may want to chime in, but I think it's just a guessing game right now when we're going to know anything. And rather than kind of predict that, I think we just maybe have an understanding that once we do know anything, we reach out to you and let you know that. Jim, do you have anything else to add on that in that regard?
Oh, Jim, you're muted.
Jim, can you unmute yourself and let us know what you think?
Sure. I was trying to do it by mental telepathy. The other thing is, like last year, we got really excited. We thought, okay, we're going to know more when the legislature closes. But then the trouble was we had to wait for the governor to decide what he was going to veto. And he took a long time to get around to signing anything. So that was what happened last year is things really got pushed off. I think it was well into June before the governor he had to do it by a certain date, and I think he waited till that last date. So I don't want to get too overly ambitious about when we expect to know what the situation's going to be. And I think when we met informally or earlier this week, I did mention a couple of places you can go to watch Teams meetings where you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the legislature, like looking at the faculty senate meetings when the provost talks. But we will definitely reach out to you. But there are venues that you can attend, or you can have somebody in your group attend to get continuing information about that. The provost typically meets with the Senate and the Senate Executive Committee, and those are all public meetings, and gives them an update on the legislative update. And we will, of course, provide any information we have as we learn about it.
There's actually, I have two quick, slightly related questions. Well, the first one's much more related, I guess, directly related. If you'll have any idea when the university is going to have the budget itself, but I'm guessing it's the same answer to that question that you just gave to the budget authority question.
Yeah, that'll be sometime over the summer, and the university's budget typically isn't completely decided until toward the end of the summer usually. Okay. But we should know, if the budget's good, then there's lots of good things lots more things to follow, and if it's not, then there's fewer things we can do. It's just that simple.
Okay. And one last related thing, whenever the university starts having these meetings, one thing that we would like to have possibly is at least to be a fly in the wall, maybe at least some of these budget meetings, because I remember last year, right, the GAU and the university were at a bit of an impasse with not like a legal impasse, right, but were, just butting heads over these budget issues, and you guys, well, we don't have the money. But I think it would be like if we had someone kind of there, maybe we can see better what the budget situation is in the university and how you administrators are approaching the budget. But I also know that that's.
Well, again, I think you'll get that kind of information if you just get somebody to watch those Senate meetings. I think that'll be your best bet, and I can send you the invites as I get them. And they're public, so anybody can follow the link and get in, but that's your best bet. I mean, that's actually, I learn a lot at those meetings myself. It's not like we have smoke-filled back rooms where we all get together and talk about the budget. So
yeah,
or if those are there, I'm not hearing them.
We just imagine like you guys just breaking out the cigars and the whiskey and but okay, so we'll keep an eye out for those Senate meetings then.
Yeah.
Sam, let me add this. We embrace you having as much information as you can possibly get and be provided so that it makes your job at least easier, that you know what's going on, and it's not something that surprises you. I mean, we believe that working together, both the university and GAU, when you have more information, it makes it easier to craft your proposals and understand why one party is where it is in its proposals, you know? So we embrace you getting whatever information you can.
Okay, good to know. And it's just nice hearing you guys say that. Okay, so moving on to the next topic. I think just listing some of our general concerns. These aren't specific proposals, but this is something that we were looking to do the last 3-year contract. And we understand, you know, actually, now that I think about it, I think maybe this is an issue that we should wait for budget authority to talk about. But we do want to sort of go over some of the aspirations we have. So we know that the university is going to be getting CARES money, and we don't currently have like a list of specific proposals because we don't even know how much it's going to be yet. We know you guys don't know how much it's going to be yet. But in addition to any budgetary changes on recurring things, we do know that, right, this is a non-recurring lump sum of money that the university is getting, and that means you can't give us like straight raises and stuff for that money. Like, we understand that, but we are wanting to tell the university ways that they can use that money that'll actually help us, right? And so we have 4 kind of general ideas. You know, we just want to tell you this now so you guys know when that you do have a better idea what that money is going to consist of, and you're thinking about how it should be divvied up, that you kind of know what our priorities are. And so we have 4 specific priorities, which we think would be really useful ways to spend that money. And these things cost various amounts of money. So we understand that, you know, making any firm decisions on these is a long way down the road. So one of them, we would suggest possibly a one-time bonus, right? In lieu of wage increases for the past couple of years. It's kind of like a blunt instrument, you know, to give employees a Christmas bonus and stuff. But since we haven't gotten wage increases of the past year, we're probably not going to get one next year. You know, one-time bonus, it would help to compensate for that. Another thing that we would like to see, and this is, I think, the most affordable and also makes the most sense in a pandemic, and this is something that we really fought tooth and nail for the last bargaining session, is full insurance coverage. You know, when we understand that that's something that we may only get it for like a year or two, because again, we want to reiterate that we know that this money is not recurring, but even for like a brief period of time during the, you know, I guess hopefully it'll be post-pandemic by next year, to touch wood, you know. But if the university, you know, it would be a much smaller cost for them, and it would make it much easier, I think, for students to sign up for their health insurance at the beginning. And, you know, we calculated it out because right now it's $167. It would be under 400 grand, right? So it would be a drop in the bucket of the CARES funding. Another suggestion is fee relief, which is a bit more expensive, obviously, because the fees are several times the insurance expense. And, you know, fee relief obviously is anywhere from, you know, 1% to 100%. Obviously, we would want as much of it as possible, but, you know, fees are a persistent problem for graduate students, because even with, like, you know, waivers and things, you can get to try to pay it later. You know, often students are hit with late fees. They often don't have enough money at the start of the semester to pay their fees, right? So then they're kind of like left hanging, and then did we lose John? I don't see him.
I don't see him either.
Let's see if he comes back on. Yeah.
He quit out in my mid rant.
I'm going to text him. This is Sherry, and just so you know, I'm actually taking minutes, so don't worry that any of the dialogue gets lost, because I'm writing everything down that you're sharing.
You Sherry?
If there's a gap, I had one question. Dr. Gary, I don't know if you can handle a question like this or if you need to wait for Mr. Gary to come back, Mr. Dickinson to come back. But regarding kind of sort of the necessary deferral that we're going to have to put on some issues that we would like to table about finances until we figure out what's going on with the legislature and the budget and everything like that. Is it, just to be clear, like for myself, because I don't think I understand this perfectly well, that would mean that we can still negotiate about financial issues. It would just be kind of arbitrary to do so because we really don't know what kind of bars we're going to hit later on. Does that mean that we really can't TA any kind of financial issues, or is it possible for the bargaining council to TA something that has anything to do with budget before we actually know?
If there's a financial side to anything that we agree on, it has to be run by the finance people before we can, and we have to get permission from them to do it before we can do it. So, okay. And the problem right now is really more of the uncertainty. We just don't really know. Things could go different ways. So much depends on how much tax money the state takes in this year compared to last year. If their revenues continue to decline, then we're going to get less money typically. Yeah. And, it's easy to do this stuff in good times. It's really hard to do this stuff in bad times. And sure. I say the same thing to all the chairs out there. I always say it's easy to be a chair in good times, but it's really hard to be a chair of a department in bad times. And we're not really in terrible times. It's just that there's so many uncertainties. There's so many things rolling around in the air that we don't really know. And so for us to say, yes, we can do, give you guys a big pay raise, but then we don't have the money for it, that's the problem. So
yeah, I totally understand that. It was more just a question. I wanted to be sure about it more so that our bargaining team knows where to put our time and our labor over, the interim over the next couple months or even 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So I always have to, part of my job is to figure out what the financial, what the financial impacts would be of anything that we were to sign, and I have to report that up in the chain, so that they understand what it is and how much it's going to cost. Yep. And so
I'm back on the call. For some reason, I got knocked off this call. But are you asking us to provide information so that you can decide what to propose?
Oh, no, sir. I was just asking Dr. Gary kind of, given that we're going to have to wait until we have certain information from the state legislature about the budget situation, I just wanted to double check and make sure that means that your side can't TA anything about important economic matters until that happens.
Oh, I think that's correct.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, that's realistic. When we TA something, we intend to stick to it and stay behind it. So with that principle in mind, I don't think it would be prudent to TA something unless we're prepared to go forward with it, if we reach an agreement.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
So yeah, John, just as I was saying, fee relief, I think, is something that, at least temporary fee relief with the CARES Act money, I think would be really useful. I mean, it's something that we think there shouldn't be fees at all, right, for a variety of reasons, and I could give you like a 10-hour philosophical argument about why. But obviously, the budget situation being as it is, we're not asking for permanent fee relief yet, and it'd be nice, again, maybe we'll argue for that later, but That would at least hypothetically be one potential avenue to use the CARES money. The other one that the suggestion that we had, and this is something which could be tricky, but also maybe potentially easy, and it would also, it's one of those things that's expensive, but I believe it fits with the university's values. So as I take one of the university's values right now, is there's a big emphasis on graduate student success, right? And that, you know, obviously graduate students aren't just coming here to teach for a few years, they're coming here to graduate with a really good degree that is representative of the excellence of USF, and then they can go on and get like prestigious jobs elsewhere, and people know how like USF is a really good education institution. Well, in the MOU last year, we got like, you know, an extra year of attendance in the university, but there wasn't much of like a funding mechanism behind that. And we believe that because of the limitations on COVID, people are going to need not only that extra year, but they're going to need funding for that extra year to make sure basically that you know, they can succeed, right? Because I know myself, at moments I've been much more productive than normal, but at other moments, like there's just so much stuff going on, I don't even know how to gauge my productivity very well. I know a lot of graduate students are kind of a little listless, they're feeling alienated, demoralized, people just not as productive as normal. And so it means that, you know, one of our worries is that a lot of graduate students, there's going to be a lower rate of graduate students completing their program prior to the cutoff of funding, right? So I also know that it's not infrequent for departments anyways to add an extra year or two to funding when they have the money. So it would be nice if some of the CARES Act money could be systematically put aside in a way to increase at least the opportunity to get an extra year of funding for graduate students, because we think that that's really important. And we think not only is it really important, but that it would actually, it does fit with the university's stated objectives.
So Sam, you're talking about eligibility for a TA-ship?
Yeah, so you know, an extra, you know, a certain amount of time of TA-ship that could be decided, you know, depending on the budgetary constraints. But, you know, I think that would be really useful for a lot of graduate students. And, you know, something like even the head of my department said, like, I asked him about this, and he's like, you know, because we, you know, he was telling me, like, we may only have, yeah, I may only have funding till next fall, right, myself. I'm probably going to take longer than that, but I'm at least more privileged than other graduate students. And what he said is, you know, like, we want that, and actually, like, if you look at the statistics nationwide, even pre-pandemic, master's students were taking like an extra year of you know, maybe 6 or 7 years to complete their degrees. That's certainly normal in my department already. So, but at the same time, obviously, we have less funding now for extra years, because all the funding is getting cut from the departments, and heads of departments, you know, would, if they had extra money, be like, oh, you know, I know this grad student needs an extra year. He's made really good progress. We're really confident he is going to finish. He just needs that little bit more help, right? So finding some way to use the CARES money to systematize that, or to further bolster the economic resources of departments to do that, it's something that we really want to discuss in the future. I don't know. First of all, I'd like to hear, like, you guys have any thoughts on those?
You raised a good issue. I don't, you know, the CARES Act, you know, there are limitations and restrictions on what you can use all that for. But so we have to look at that, you know, to see whether that would even be doable under the federal act.
Yeah, and we also know that the $58 million figure is highly provisional, right? So that I heard that from Jim. I also heard that from my union, but I know that sum is, unfortunately, the House and the Senate are kind of like a sausage factory.
And Sam, what we don't know is what restrictions are going to be on that money. So obviously we would have to look at, at that very, very carefully. So
I understand. I'm not making like a strong case for any of those right now. I'm more just like trying to put these ideas in your heads. So,
yeah, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. So, in addition to that, like, budget stuff, we would like to see some recurring stuff, but again, we understand that's not really worth talking about yet, but I'll just keep that in mind. A couple other questions. First off, do you guys know when the federal mandated 2-week COVID sick leave expires?
I believe it expired in December.
It expired in December, so we are no longer covered by that.
Okay, so this is Sherry. I'd like to intervene, please. So officially, it did end on December 31st. However, we were under the Department of Labor as an organization. We were able to determine whether or not we wish to extend it, and USF did extend it, and so it's been extended right now through March 31st of this year. So as long as someone has not already used up to those 80 hours that they're eligible for, that is still a benefit available. So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there somewhere, Sherry, they can find that on the website or something?
I will look up, I hope that we've kept that information up to date on our COVID website, but I have not looked at it myself. So let me just verify that it's there. But I can definitely provide information if GAU needs documentation to verify this is accurate. But we've communicated this out through all of USF that we as an employer have extended the benefits through March 31st.
Okay, we'll make sure to communicate that to our membership as well.
Absolutely, but Sam, I will find the documentation and send that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes, I mean, I've already, like this semester, I think 2 of my students have caught COVID. So, I mean, I assume a decent number of grad students are catching it too. So that's really important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's like our economic issues. We are hoping to discuss certain language issues with you guys in the contract. Some of it is going to be familiar language issues. The most familiar one would be 2.4D that we spent a long time arguing over last time and never came to any good agreement about. Right, that people in certain, the people have a right to get their appointment letter with a certain amount of foresight, right? And the university, the contract currently says that this is only a requirement if practicable, right? And we understand that oftentimes, there are reasons why it's not practicable for the university to tell a student in May whether or not they're going to have a job come August. But we still believe that it's important for the chairs to still communicate to the students, right? To inform the students that, hopefully, like we just don't know yet. We hope to get this information for you soon. And we're happy to work with you guys to make sure the language is as friendly on that as possible. But it's really important to us that we have this notification, right, ahead of time. So if I'm, if the head of my department is sure to get enough money, say, to hire in August, or alternatively, if he's not sure that, some other issue, right, at least the head of department is going to tell me, right? I have a right to know. And So, yeah, that's 2.4, right? Is that?
2.4A and B, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I get the contract right here. But yeah, we spent a while arguing about that last time. I don't want to spend as long arguing about it this time, but I do want to bring up that issue again because it's really important to us. So, what other issues? There's job abandonment. We're you know, I know that your argument is that the job abandonment clause is pretty standard, but we have some concerns about the short time frame. I mean, we still think the 3 days is kind of a short time frame because of the nature of being a graduate student is kind of unusual work to begin with. You're much more likely to be traveling, doing other things. There are reasons you might not be able to inform the head of your department. We can try to offer you guys alternative language for that, maybe. So maybe propose for next time. Let's see here. Any other language issues?
Some of that, let me just say, some of that was, agreed to last time. I'm looking right at what we agreed to, that job abandonment language. That was all part of the agreement that ended up with y'all getting the pass on the insurance increase. So it was like a trade-off of some of this stuff for that.
Yeah. I think we've kind of reconsidered, I guess, our decision on that a little bit, which, maybe that's on us, right? But we can offer you guys alternative language specifically that hopefully is somewhere in between, right? Where we were before, we had nothing, and where we are now. I guess it was a very standard sort of job abandonment clause you might expect if you're like, a factory worker or something, where I think being graduate students like a very different profession. What other language issues? We don't actually have any other specific language issues to raise right now. There are some things we're concerned about with termination. Others we're concerned about with termination language, but we need to for that. We can do that next time. One more article we'd like to look at is Article 10 and the number of paid leave days. One of the things that we'd like the university to consider also is accumulation of sick days. This is something that professors have, right? And something that's very useful for students. So, for example, a lot of students require, parental leave, right? And there's no paid parental leave contract. That's also something else we'd like to see. We suggested that last time. But something like accumulation of sick days would allow new parents to actually take maybe 3 weeks paid leave, right? Instead of the 1 week or 2 weeks they have now. So what we want to propose is something like either, like perhaps up to 5 days of sick leave can be accumulated. We don't want to ask for you can accumulate like 50 hours of sick day or 50 sick days, right? But if you can accumulate, say, 5 in addition to the 5 you get each semester. That means if you don't use 5 one semester, that means the next semester you'd have 10, right? But you never go over than 10. The idea also being, this actually is something else that ties into graduate student success. That is, as I'm sure Gary knows, and the rest of you, graduate students have to present, and our paid leave days are not only sick leave days, they're also conference presentation days, right? So if we can accumulate more days, that means we can present at more conferences. That raises the status of the university. That also means we have better CVs when we graduate. Whereas right now, if you only have 5 sick days, right, that means I can't use, if I do go to a conference, that means I don't have enough sick days. Or if I get sick, that means I can't go to the conference, right? And, I think we'd be a pretty small change overall, but would give graduate students more security if they're going to, as I say, present at conferences, go to professional associations like the APA, et cetera. Okay. And those are, I think, all the particular articles that we have the capacity to discuss today. Again, I know we're not doing it in any detail. We're just sort of throwing general proposals out there. I think next meeting we'll have some more specifics, but I would like to hear your thoughts on those couple of proposals.
Well, first of all, we'd like to see them in writing so we can understand exactly, what you're proposing. But we'll certainly consider and review anything you want to provide us.
Okay.
I do note that some of what you've been talking about is economic in nature.
It is. Well, I mean, strictly speaking, paid sick leave is economic in nature, although I'm not sure if it would have a net increase in the university, because I imagine what happens, so if what I'm saying is correct, then part of the problem is that students aren't going to present at conferences where they otherwise could have presented at. They're going into their lab, they're going into their, to teach, but the university is still paying them, right? So this grad students getting paid either way. There's a question of whether or not they're stuck doing their job an additional day, or if they're able to go and do this professional development, which does take time and often takes money. And, another issue which is outside of the contract altogether, but this was raised in the graduate student success meetings that I attended with Jim and Ruth and a few other executives, was that students will be going to conference, they get student government funding, but the student government funding often doesn't cover all of the costs, right? So if you're going, and presenting is really important part of being an academic, right? So if you're going to present at the APA or something as a psychologist, or the APA as a philosopher, right? We both have APAs, then not only are you traveling, but you're effectively taking a day off work, right? You're like not getting paid for that time, unless you're saving your sick days specifically for that. That means you can't get sick, right? So I mean, it's economic in nature, but I don't think it's something that will cost the university a large amount of money. I think it would just be the university spending its money in slightly different things, just give more freedom to graduate students, I guess.
And Sam, there's another issue that you might want to bring up with the student group, the student government, is that they don't allow you to accept money from other sources. If they give you $500 to go to a meeting, you're not allowed to take $500 from another source to get the $1,000 you need to go to the meeting. And that's just has always been a difficult thing for my grad students. And that's something you could maybe talk to the student government about, people, because they're the ones that set that particular rule, and that my students are always complaining about that one. It's got nothing to do with these negotiations, but but it's related to what you were just saying, so I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, that's another thing. I remember, I think you may have mentioned that, the graduate.
I did.
Yes. Yeah. So that's something that, I mean, yeah, we could raise that with student government. I think we have some links to them, but okay. So I appreciate like the paid sick, you know, the accumulated sick days is maybe something that, you know, we're still going to have to wait to discuss until we have budget authority. But at the very least, I don't think it would be a huge financial burden on the university. And I do think it would, you know, really help with graduate student professional development, which I think is something that's really important. Also, you know, honestly, it's going to help with other things like parental leave and stuff, because also like, you know, if you have a graduate student who's a new parent, they have to come in to teach or something, right? Because they don't have enough sick days. Say they've got a C-section or something, they're not going to be doing a good job, you know. They're not going to be on their game. It could actually harm them physically, right? So, and there's unpaid leave for that sort of stuff, but, you know, obviously you can't pay rent with unpaid leave. That's a good point, Liz. And so that's something that we'll bring a specific proposal, I think, on that and on 2.4, 2.5, and a couple other articles. But we're going to try to be more specific because I think we got bogged down in like 50 different language issues last time. And I think we want to focus on like the maybe 5 or 6 language issues that are most substantive right now. And I think you know, those are basically some of them, especially the, yeah, and also, again, I know that some of this is repetitive from last year, and it's going to seem really tedious arguing about it again. Gary, did you have a question? So your hand's up. Or you? No? Sorry, Jim, you had a question.
I was just holding my hand limp-wristedly for some reason.
Just doing hand yoga, you know, it helps. Okay, I don't think we have any other specific issues to raise, so I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts. Otherwise, you know, we can end this meeting early, except for, I guess, planning the next meeting, which I would like to do after. But I do want to hear if you guys have any closing thoughts on the stuff I've mentioned today.
Well, I've got a question, Sam. You had mentioned at the very beginning of your presentation maybe an MOU. Was that just something that you just mentioned, or without an interest in pursuing, or was that something you were seriously considering proposing? You know, a 1-year MOU where there's no risk of reduction of benefits, where there's, you know, you basically would be asking to have an assurance for that 1 year that there would be no reduction in any benefits or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll say we're not committed to that right now, but we're leaning in that direction. I think a lot of it really falls down on what the budget's going to look like. Because if the budget's looking bad again, which it may well, then we'll probably want to move in that direction. I think we want to be open at least to the budget being a little bit better, but I understand that may be overly optimistic. But yeah, I think a 1-year MOU may be what we end up doing. Sorry if that's not as committed as you would have liked to hear, but you know, hopefully that, you know, helps at least a little bit.
Well, I'm just asking because I'd written it down. So it's up to you totally what you want to propose on that. Unless there are other members of my team who.
Going to restart. Yeah. I think he was in both. Yeah.
I think he just wants to really make sure that he's not.
Yeah. But it's fine. I mean, that's why I brought it up. I wanted him to know that I just jumped in and that we weren't in here the whole time.
I have the power to admit John Dickinson.
Hey, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. The 26th of March, although it's not ideal, we'll agree to that date, Sam. And with the understanding also that y'all gonna get us your proposals before then,
Okay.
make it more productive. Okay? And we'll do it at 2 o'clock again?
Mm-hmm. That works.
All right.
All right, so we'll send out an invitation for 26 March at 2 p.m.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you all for everything.
Yep. Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Have a
Thank
good.
you.
Have a good-
Bye.